Hello folks and welcome to Tippcast with myself, Shane Stapleton, joined as ever by the head of sport in the Nina Guardian, Shane Brophy, and Gary Toome, who is covering all the games there with Clubber at the moment. Men, how are we this morning?
How's things?
Yeah, brilliant, Shane, brilliant.
Geez, it was some dramatic weekend, Shane. I mean, what was the highlight for you?
Highlight. I suppose you'd have to go with the Toome Clonoulty game. I suppose it lived up to the predictions last week in terms of being hard to call, and I think in my prediction in the paper I said don't be surprised if this goes extra time, and it did. I suppose that was the highlight. I suppose 3 of the 4 quarterfinals being decided by a puck of a ball, really, essentially. That's as much you could ask. You're not going to get all 4 games. I suppose Thurles looking strong, but on the other side, what challenge did Drum put up? I suppose, look, we'll tease that out as the morning goes on. But it's just we're at the meeting end of it. God, I was looking at the weather last night. It's like, God, please don't be like this for the next month, because it's not looking great. You see that the weather of the ploughing, we just need another month to get through the latter end of these competitions.
Yeah, I mean, even trying to get your head around all the games that happened, Gary, it's nearly hard to remember back to the first game between Kiladangan and Holycross. But geez, Holycross gave an exhibition in that game, and I'd say they're hurting that they didn't manage to get over the line here or bring it to extra time.
Just wondering, is that statue of Darragh Woods built outside the stadium? Mate? Jeez, that was some exhibition. Mother of God, it was unbelievable. Just in all the games, I was doing a game in Cashel Sunday morning, Borlahan and Knockavilla, and I rushed straight to the stadium. So I got the second half of the first game. But I was up there with James Hayden and Liam Hogan. I had the laptop out watching another game on Clubber while I was watching the game below. It was unbelievable drama at the weekend, but you have to feel for Holycross and Roscrea. I suppose not too many probably gave them a real chance. But lads, they nearly caused 2 massive upsets. And it would have been 2 upsets. But no, fair play to Roscrea and Holycross. But where did you start talking about the action at the weekend? There were so many unbelievable games.
Clubber has his rule. I was there at 4 o'clock. I had the extra time class on the telly, and I had the Carrick Swan Killenaw game on the phone, and I had Cashel and Holycross, or Cashel and Gortnahu on the laptop, just trying to keep track of them all. So
you had a bit.
In some ways, I got to see none of them because I wasn't able to keep focus on any of them. So.
Well, let's focus in on Kiladangan beating Holycross 223 to 317. Geez, it looked like Kiladangan were going to cruise it in the first half, and then a couple of goals in quick succession from Kiladangan. That penalty from Cathal Barrett into the top corner. It's not often to see a corner back do that, Shane, but geez, Kiladangan were stretched all the way here, and this is the team that I suppose was the bookies' favourites coming into the quarter-final. It would have almost been expected that they'd win by, 5 or 6 points here and keep Holycross at arm's length, but it was nothing like that.
No, but I do think they were deserving winners. I think just experience told in the end. They got the last 4 points. They were a point down with 5 minutes to go. They rattled off 4 in a row to win by 3. Look, I think Kiladangan point of view, they hit 16 wides. That was, if they, I think Billy Seymour hit 9 of them themselves, and he still scored 110. So look, if he had even scored 4 or 5 of them, they would have been winning comfortably. I think they'd be disappointed with the nature of 2 of the 3 of the goals. I can see the penalty that was needless, a needless challenge in the square. And then look, the second one, a high ball into the square, breaking ball, Jamila Hart pulls into the net. Those 2 especially are goals. From a defensive point of view, you'd be disappointed to concede. The other one, David Fogarty, got the vision for Cathal Barrett to pick out David Fogarty with that pass is incredible. Very, very good. I suppose for Holycross, look, definitely a big step forward this year, to get out of the group into a quarter final, and they performed in a quarter final. But there's no doubt they have a bit of a way to go. But look, minor champions last year, they're back in a minor A final this year. They'll be favourites over Toomevara in a couple of weeks' time. They're coming. They don't have too many guys. Maybe Cathal Barrett's probably the oldest guy to have, and he's only touching 30. So their best years are coming. Jim Ryan wing back was excellent. Darragh Woods, 5 of the best points from play I've ever seen in Central State. I think 3 in the first half were over the show. He didn't even know where the posts were. and like Liam Cahill was there looking like, so Liam Cahill was there, so, and Michael Bevan, so look, that did these call-up chances absolutely no harm at all. Like he was full of confidence. But then on the other side, Billy Seymour played very well again. Like, bar the wides, like he still scored 1-5 from play out of 110. Sean Hayes, I thought, another big game. Not only in terms of scoring, but his work rate and getting on the ball and feeding other guys. So look, I think in terms of Kiladangan, it was the perfect way to go into the semi-final. They won without playing well, but they got a test.
Yeah, and they were able to call on their bench as well. They used a few of those. What would you say was the defining factor in that game, Gary?
Look, again, I think the likes of Thurles, Lockmore and Kiladangan, they're dying at the top table for so long. They can just see out games. Like, they've got to this stage championship really without hitting 4th or 5th gear at all. Now, Kiladangan had to go into maybe 4th or 5th gear at the weekend, but there's so much experience, and Kiladangan especially, they're well able just to see out games and get over the line. Like, you're bringing James Quigley, Willie Connors off the bench. Like,
Connor Burns was good when he came on too.
Exactly, as well, you know. But Andy Loughnane back as well. Like, he had a good game. I think 3 points in play. Did 7 different scores. But again, I know we're going back to the wides there. I wouldn't be worried about wides at all. It's one thing that kind of annoys me a small bit. So what if you hit 20 wides in a game? You're creating chances. And like, once you win the game, it doesn't matter if you hit 100 wides. So Billy hitting 5 wouldn't bother me at all. It's just a lad, he's on fire this year. He'll definitely be in Thurles over the winter. But for Holycross, like, 3 of those lads that start that game, Jim Ryan, Owen Craddock and Jimmy Lahar, they were playing last night for the 19s. I was covering the game for Clubber, and they were very impressive, lads. They were very impressive. And it's a young 19 team as well. So I'd have Holycross up there with Toome over the next 2 or 3 years. They're going to be up there dying at the top table and making semi-finals and quarter-finals year on. But Holycross have a frightening amount of young fellas coming through. Like, they won the 17 as well.
Yeah, the only issue, like, coming back to Kiladangan, they give you a chance. Like, for as good as they are, they always give you a chance. They never kill you off. Like, when they went 8-3 up early on, or it was a 7-3, you think, okay, they have control of this. But they allowed Holycross back into it 8-all. Then they got the 6-point lead before half-time. Then they conceded the penalty and another goal. Like, there's a ruthless element to them that's not there yet. Like, if Kiladangan can't, like, they have Toomevara coming up, and maybe if they get to a final, they can't give up leads like that against other teams, because they will punish them.
Yeah,
just on that, Toome gave up a lead to Clonoulty. If Toome gave that lead up to Thurles, that game was over after 15 minutes. But what I will say is, if Kiladangan give up that lead to Thurles, it's game over after 15 minutes. I know we'll touch on it shortly, but that was frightening from Sars on Sunday.
Yeah, like Dara Woods then, just coming back to him, do you think there's a chance that Liam Cahill will get him? Like, the points he scored, they don't go over every day for every sort of a player, no matter what. So as a manager, you'd probably be pulling your hair out, and so would teammates. You know, if a lad was going after these every single day. But does he have the skill set that we're looking for at county level? Does he have what you need to, you know, chase people down? Because you need to be a defender first, almost, in the forward line, Shane. So do you see him getting called in?
He's definitely worth a look. I think somebody has a bit of moxie about him, man. Like, you don't take on those shots if you don't believe you're good. Like, he's at all day. He's been very, very good right from underage. Like, he's been very, very skillful. Like, and I thought his 4th point, the one in the second half under the Ryan, where he killed a ball coming at series and turned off his left and over the bar. Like, I thought that was outstanding. Like, that was the best of the lot. So, look, I would think, look, a guy like that, I still think there's room for an X factor inside forward and inter-county hurling. Like, I'm sure if Liam Cahill got him in and said, look, we know you can score, but that can't be all about you. You've got to work hard. You got to chase. You got to hook. You got to build yourself up. And look, you like to think a guy like him will be willing to do it, like, if he's given the opportunity. Like, so, he looks a sort of a Peter Casey type of a hurler. I was trying to think who would he remind me of. He's the one that sort of comes into my head in terms of, he's diminutive, but he has all the ability.
Yeah, I was thinking even Bubbles a small bit. There's a couple of flashes at him. Would you see him, Gary, as somebody that would be of county quality? Certainly there is anyway, but there's a lot more to it.
He's definitely county quality. It's just, is he a Liam Cahill player? Like, that's a big difference. Like, you could have Sheedy in there. Sheedy might take him in the morning. Liam mightn't. I don't know,
Josh. Lee might have had him underage. I can't remember. He might have.
Liam Cahill definitely did.
Yeah. He would have seen him probably in his last year under 20.
Just the way the game has gone, like maybe it reminds me small bit of Sean Ryan. Sean obviously went in probably, it was at this time last year, and he didn't really get too many chances this year. But you see with the way Sean has improved with his club action this year, like Sean to me is the best club forward in the county and on his own. Dara, maybe a year inside, he might get to that level. I don't know. But look, again, he's worth taking a chance. And look, there's all these games have been played. Like I know Liam can't get all the games, but I'm sure he's probably seen some of them back in Clubber and stuff like that. But he's definitely worth going in for a couple of months during the winter and seeing if he's up to it all right, yeah.
Yeah, with Alan Flynn, like, I mean, he's performing pretty well, Shane. Do you think he'd be catching Liam Cahill's eye again after, of course he wasn't part of the tip setup this year?
Oh, actually, look, it'd be foolish for Liam Cahill not to consider Alan again. Like, I thought it was the surprising omission from his first squad. Look, you can't have enough good, solid, honest inter-county players like Alan Flynn was. I suppose the problem for Alan at inter-county level is that he has no set position. He could be effective at cornerback as he would be at a midfield. I know he was bitterly disappointed to be dropped, which is a great sign of a chap. So I'd like to think if Liam Cahill got on the phone this year and said, Alan, I want you back, that Alan would say, no problem. Like, it just, that shows the mentality of the guy, like, so that he's willing to say, okay, look, he didn't want me, but he wants me now. And I there's no point of being too proud to say, I'll say no, look, I might come back. So look, he was outstanding. I thought it was interesting that Kiladangan played him at centre back on Sunday, back in his best position, and he got forward. That last point put them, I think, his last second point put them 2 points up deep in injury time to show that he knew when it was on him to take on that shot, he was able to get it.
Okay, we'll move on to the second quarter final. That's a 5th county semi-final in a row for Kiladangan. So, like you said, Gary, they know how to win games to get to this level. Lockmore 224, Roscrea 223, and as that game was going on, I probably tweeted a similar sort of sentiment as that about, in terms of getting across the line, a team who hasn't been here before. Roscrea hadn't played a quarter final since, I think it was 2005 we were talking about last week. But was it simply down to experience, Gary, that Lockmore got across the line?
I would say so, yeah. Like, you're carrying Noel there. Look, I know it's well talked about. Noel was obviously injured going into the game. He's basically non-existent. That's no disrespect to him, but I was up in Newport doing Trace Support Row, and I was watching the game, and I was looking at the result, 5 points down at half time, and just something inside me says Lockmore is still going to win this game. Do you know, like, so when Man City go down 1-0 before half time, you just know they're going to come back and win that game. Lockmore had the aura about him as well. But I tell you, it wasn't for the want of trying from Roscrea. Like, when Lockmore went 2 or 3 points up, I thought that's it now. They're going to pull away and win by 7 or 8 points. But I didn't think Roscrea would have in him to keep going at that level. But I was very impressed with Roscrea, very impressed with him. But again, it's just Lockmore going into that extra gear when they needed to. And I've no doubt against the Sars, they'll go into 4th or 5th gear, which we haven't seen at all this year. But no, look, and again, you have to say to Roscrea, like, I think Alan Tynan was carrying an injury or he was ill going into the game as well, lads. So
there was an illness, I think. So
yeah, so Jesus, like Roscrea, like, to put up a performance like that, like, you have to say, like, it's been unbelievable first year back up for seniors for him.
Yeah, it really was. Like, you were looking at that thinking both Alan Tynan and Noel McGrath, neither of them had a big influence on the game whatsoever. But, like, some of those players that really stood out to me, like Evan Fitzpatrick again, like, he's somebody that I see time and again, and I'm like, geez, this lad's a very good player here. He always seems to make some sort of an impact. Shane Fletcher got a lovely goal at the start of the game. There was other players who popped up with scores as well. But Shane, just to talk about Roscrea first and foremost, I mean, what a year first year back at senior.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt about it. Look, I suppose when you're coming up as the champions, the lower tier, there's not much expectation from it outside the Roscrea club, but like, they would have been keen to show that the first year up is always important because you have the momentum and positivity. And I know a couple of lads maybe stepped away and you think, God, are they going to build on it? But look, they did. They got into the quarter final, and I think I said it last week, for Roscrea to win, they had to bring their best performance of the year, and they did that. But it just wasn't quite enough. Like they were outstanding in the first half. Some of the scores they got and everything were brilliant. But I looked at the half-time score. I said 117 to 2-9. I said, that's an outrageous score for... Well, it was great for Roscrea. It was an outrageous score for Lockmore to concede. And I said, Lockmore have brought no intensity to this whatsoever. If they step up the intensity, then we'll know what Roscrea can do. And of course, Lockmore stepped it up big time. I think Roscrea only scored 3 points in the first 30 minutes of the second half. 4 came in injury time. So, but I suppose as the Roscrea style of play, if you let the stand off that style of play, they'll absolutely kill you. But if you get in their face, as Lockmore did in the second half, it can come against you in that Roscrea's possession style leads to unforced errors. And then passes break down, passes are intercepted, puckouts are misplaced, and then Lockmore can turn them into cheap scores or turn into cheap frees and get points from it. And I think that's what happened. Like, in fairness to Roscrea, they never veered away from their game plan, and they fully believe in what they're playing. And I'm sure Liam England was thinking, we're not going to change today. Like, this is going to be a 2 or 3 year project. Like, they'll develop that for next year again. They'll develop it further. But even in the last few minutes, like, they're still wedded to what they did. I did think, Alan Tynan was ill. I did think it was surprising that, like, he hadn't got an awful lot of ball at wing forward. Like, their wing forward half hour line were starved in the second half. It's like they weren't hitting long puck outs. Like, they were continuing to work the ball up the field. They were already behind. Why not stick him in the edge of the square? Like, I just think when you're taking off your county man, and I know Alan is Liam England's nephew, and it's probably a small bit easier to take him off in those circumstances. But God, I just think you go all in, you leave him out there, you put him in a position where he could make one play in that, maybe at a full forward, that could have made the difference.
And the only thing is, I wouldn't be sure, did he actually say, look, I'm not right here at all?
Yeah,
like,
maybe so.
Yeah. I have to say, I like that Roscrea stuck to their guns in terms of their game plan, even though it did break down during that second half, because that's probably what's got them to this stage. And and I'm sure Liam England knows it as a manager, at times you're watching and you're pulling your hair out because something has gone against you. And you're like, oh, that's such a killer, like you were saying, Shane, a momentum changer where you work the ball out the back, you've spilled it. But again, they are back up to that, another step up in terms of intensity, been back up senior this year. It will stand to them for next year. I think they're a common team, like to just be at Premier Intermediate last year and make this sort of an impact. But then again, look, the likes of John McGrath, you can't get away from it, Gary. Like John McGrath, 113. I know Liam McGrath only got a point inside, but he was just a great focal point inside.
Like, that was a big moment in the game. He had been sent off, and he probably should have been. Like, he retaliated with a strike. Like at minimum, if the referee wasn't going to send him off, you take the free off them.
Yeah, that was
still got the point. So and they lost by a point. So you think margins like that were huge in the game. I was fully expecting a red card to come out. It looked clear cut to me.
Yeah, can Roscrea be very aggrieved by that, Gary?
You look, obviously when you lose by a point, you can look at every single blade of grass. But obviously, geez, that was a massive turning point. And you look back at the whole Roscrea performance, Carrie Allen, who was sick, 10 different scores. Lockmore only had 6. He only scored, as Shane said, three points in the first 30 minutes, and he still only lost by a point. So it just goes to show, they probably contained, Lockmore scored 222. They're probably averaging 25, 26 points a game anyway. So, considering, I'd have Roscrea right below Toome and Holycross for the next 2 or 3 years. I don't think they're at the level of Toome or Holycross just yet, but they are a common team. As you say, they're like Evan Fitz and Shane Fletcher. I've been very impressed with 2 boys this year. And again, they were starved of ball, but I would agree with you, Shane Stapleton, that delighted Liam did stick to the process. Because it's easy just lump high ball into Conor Dooley there inside and hope for the breaking balls. But it worked against Killarwan, it nearly worked against Toome, and it nearly worked against Lockmore. So sticking to the process works for them. And look, they should enjoy their winter now, looking back on the progress they made this year.
And even so, Brian McGrath got an awful lot of ball, because sometimes when they did go along, probably from 2 deep, they just hit ball straight down his throat and he was going to gobble it up.
Yeah, absolutely. In fairness to Lockmore, look, they're still there, lads. They're still there. They're like John, massive game. I thought Ed Connolly had a big second half. That was Kieran Connolly's, I'd say, that his first start in 2 years, I'd say, for Lockmore. He missed most of last year. I think he had a good first half. You could see he maybe the lack of game time, he was peripheral enough in the second, but that 60 minutes in his legs will do him the power of good. like I suppose you'd worry about Noel, like, and that hip problem. Like I would assume he's not going to play in the football quarter final next weekend to get him to keep himself right. So look, on the plus side, like Philip O'Connell 1-2. Look, they're able to find these players every year, somebody to come in and do a job. Kieran McCormack was quiet, but he could be a match winner the next day. Kieran McGrath came off the bench. I thought he had a big 15 minutes in at full forward, and he came on. So look, they're still there, lads. I still think that the element that's going to hold them back is the loss of Joey Hennessy and John Maher in their defence. The fullback and centre back from the last 5 or 6 years are not there. I just still think long term, maybe that's going to be the difference, and maybe them. I'm not going. I picked them at the start of the year. I'm not going to jump off the horse now, but I think that maybe vulnerability down the middle without those two guys could be the thing that holds them back a small bit.
Yeah, I went to my third horse this year, if it's any consolation.
And like Gary, this is a little bit tongue in cheek, but after saying Toomevara couldn't win it this year, you're sweating now. They're into the final four, first time in 5 years.
Come here, you keep bringing this up now and make me look like a villain. I am a massive fan of Toome. I'm probably Toome's biggest fan. I absolutely adore this team. Like I got to see the game in extra time.
You should be excommunicated in silver mines for saying that.
You're the one spreading this. No one else is.
I'm only winding you up, Gary. You know I'm winding you up.
Oh God, last time I come on with G2 feckers in it. No, look, I really like this team. I really impressed them on Sunday. Like Clonoulty have all the experience in the world of closing out games, and this young Toome team. The game won 4 points up. Adam Hall, another statue should be given to him. But I still think they won't have enough to get over Kiladangan. And if they do, I would love to be wrong again. But I would say in the next, by 2025-26, they will either win a Danbreen or be in a Danbreen final. They're just impressing me every day to go out. And like even in extra time, there's bodies dying everywhere with cramp. And there's a couple of Toome lads coming over and picking lads up, throwing it back out. They just have everything, and it was definitely the game of the weekend by a country mile.
Yeah, Shane, like 2-3 for Adam Hall coming on at half time. And in terms of like looking at young lads coming on and taking over the mantle, Darren McCarthy with 12 points. I know 2 of those were only from play, but like Adam Hall coming in, snapping that ball at the very end when there was only a point in it, it's getting it's squeaky bum time, and he does that, pops it over, and it's just game over. Like that was brilliant.
And he just the understanding in that situation, like maybe another young lad in his situation might be thinking hat-trick here, hat-trick hero, like, but no, he knew, pop it over, let's win the game, let's get out of here. Like, look, it was a great win for Toome. I do think, okay, they got off to a slow start, but look, they hadn't played for 3 weeks. I definitely think the preliminary quarter final stood to Clonoulty in the early going. They were really up to the pitch of the game. Like, the group Toomevara was in wasn't the toughest, and I think they found that first 15-20 minutes, that the extra intensity, and it took them a while to get into it. And look, from their point of view, like, they'd have to thank their goalie. He pulled off a big save early on. Like, if they'd gone maybe 1-8 to 3 down or something, that could have been curtains at that stage. Like, they were really gasping for air. But once they got back to 10-8 at half time, you knew they're really in it. And look, you got to give credit to Ken Dunn. I suppose having somebody from that great Toomevara team over them, the next group of lads, and I think he manages the under-19 teams as well. So like he's in there now, bringing on the next level. I think more clubs need to go down the road of having their first adult team and their under-19 team more or less training together, or maybe the same manager, because you know what you have. And look, Darren McCarthy, he knows what he's doing at under-19. I think Darren might have been sick during the week, so that maybe might have impacted his level of performance. But then Adam Hall coming off the bench, 2-3, outstanding. Mark McCarthy, big shift there, I thought. And they're playing really, really well. They're playing Toomevara hurling. It's good use of the ball, good physicality, good smart play. Like, you think they're doing all this without Jason Ryan. Like, you think, God, if I would have thought at the start of the year that when Jason wasn't there, and I think there's another Ryan, I think, went away this year out of their defence. I can't remember his first name, but Alan Ryan out of forwards. Yeah, like if they had those two, like, how good would they be? Like, and if potentially those two come back next year, that squad, like, they're, as Gary says, like, they're coming. Sorry, I don't know where I lost you there. Kiladangan minor under 21 senior have had Toomevara's number, but Toome are going to get them at some stage, and geez, it would be typical Toome to take them down in the second biggest game possible, which is the county semi-final.
And like Gary, the other thing is it's 3-3 from the bench. Not only did Adam Hall get the 2-3, but Kenny Ryan came on and got a goal as well. So Ken Dunn using the bench very well. If you were told beforehand that Toome would put up 320 after extra time and sneak through this game, but Jack Delaney wouldn't get a score, you'd have been shocked.
Yeah, like that's one thing. I was sitting there with Liam and James and doing the notes and everything. Look back at it, and I was like, "Geez, Jack didn't score at all." Like that's unbelievable. But Jack worked like a dog, and just on Dara as well. I think he was sick during the week. He was sick for that 19 game, but sure, he still scored 16 points for us, Dara anyway. But he had 4 turnovers during that game. Dara did. Like so. You might just score 2 points and play, which is poor, I suppose, from Darren McCarthy's standard. But he's 4 turnovers, and 2 of them led to scores. Kevin only got a point. He seemed quiet maybe to the naked eye, but Kevin, I think, had 3 turnovers. So, but Mark McCarthy, I have to say about Mark, he really showed up in extra time. Now, he got a brilliant score, I think, in the first half as well. But in extra time, he got a point himself, but he set up Kenny Ryan for his goal. It was an unbelievable turnover. He had no right to win that ball, but put the body in the hurl on the line. Lovely flick straight into the paw. And that pass to Kenny Ryan was absolutely pin perfect. Like, it was the right thing to do, but a lot of lads don't get that ball off. So I just been very impressed with the Toome forwards as a whole. The backs were under pressure a lot of time, but the forwards worked like dogs all day.
Yeah, no, I actually think that score shows the improvement Toome made this year. I think the old Mark McCarthy would have tried to score himself, either take the point or take on the man and get it himself. He knew the right job here is to get it into Kenny Ryan. And you look, think Kenny Ryan from a few years ago is a starter for Toome. He's had cruel time with injuries. Like, you think he's another serious option now off the bench. Was like he's senior level. It's just that he hasn't had the luck in terms of injury the last few years. So to be starting enough, like, I think he was a tip minor a few years ago. Like, he's a quality player. Like, so like they have a bench like to come on, like, which is huge for them.
Yeah, and it was all tongue in cheek, Gary. We know that you have been pushing Toome strong to be getting close in the next year or two. But
no, I don't want to shout it too loud that I'm a Toome fan, because coming from the mines now, we wouldn't go down with Toome now. But yeah. No, they're a nice team, and Ken Dunn, fair play to them.
Yeah, but just on the Clonoulty side of things, there was a lot of lads who performed quite well there, like Michael Ryan Winnie scored 6 points, I think. Conor Hammersley, and again, he's not all that long back, scored a goal against Kiladangan when he came back, got another one here. Cathal Burke scored 10 points, 4 of those from play. The inside forward line didn't really show up, I suppose, the way they'd want, but you've lads across the field, Enda Heffron, Kieran Quirk, John O'Keefe all played well, Shane. So maybe a word on Clonoulty and what they've done this year. And they still have relegation to go into. Yeah,
that's the tricky thing for Clonoulty. Like, when you lose a county quarter final, ordinarily you think that's your year over. So, like, now they have to pick themselves up. And, like, on the face of it, you think if they play like that at the weekend, they should be fine. But, geez, I don't know. I think they got the worst draw possible in Brackens. Like, I think Brackens they're a very, very dangerous element for them, that relegation semi-final. They play a different blend of hurling to a lot of clubs. They use the ball, they're sharp pass, and they work the ball. They play more or less a football style. So, yeah, that's a tricky one for Clonoulty. Like, I thought they were first 20 minutes they were very good, but after that I thought Toome were the better side. Yeah, they're lacking that. They're lacking that finisher in the inside forward line, aren't they? Robert Doyle, you could still see he's not a natural forward. He's just, in a game like that, he was struggling a bit. Jack Ryan did an awful lot right. There was a couple of he got on some ball and he came out of his hand. It just didn't stick well enough. But look, I think they have enough quality to stay up, whether it is through a semi-final or a final. And maybe just to touch on it, I think, geez, imagine county semi-final last year between Killarwan and Upperchurch, and they're drawn together now in a relegation semi-final. And like, I think the loser of that game will be the favourite to go down. I think both of them are in a sticky situation. I would fancy the winner of the other semi-final to be the one that stays up.
Yeah,
it
just speaks to how exciting level that the Tipperary Championship is, that you can have the county champions and semi-finalists and a team that won it 5 years ago and Clonoulty in there. and even the mid champions from last year in there as well. So it's like it's a Shark Tank in there. The other the other quarter final, Gary, Thurles Sarsfields 24 points, Drum and Inch 112. That goal was at the very end. Came from Tony Cahill. This was, look, it was a bit of a drubbing, really, wasn't it? Thurles were so impressive.
Look, it was a damn squib. Probably less said about it, better. The game was over after 15 minutes. You just had that feeling when you're inside in the stadium there that it was just, there was no atmosphere whatsoever. The physicality from Thurles was just frightening. And Drum are a big team. They're a strong team. But again, we keep talking about levels with Kiladangan, Lockmore and Sars. Well, I do anyway. And second, third, fourth. I'd say Thurles to get out with third gear on Sunday, but it was a frightening third gear. I can't see them being bet at all. No matter what Lockmore throw them or Kiladangan or Toome, it was just a different level of Sars. I haven't seen it all this year, and I haven't seen it for a long time. But again, I have to go back to it, and it was pulling the hair out stuff. Ronan was left all on his own basically for the first 20-25 minutes. Again, I think we counted 7 free possessions. I think it was in the first 10 or 11 minutes, and I just don't get it. Like, Ronan Betnina on his own, basically, from mopping up all that loose ball. And again, Drum just played right into Thurles' hands. And I just don't get why a team won't just sacrifice one player, stay on his toes, and follow him around. Drum were their own downfall. It was simple as that. But Thurles got to a level, lads, and I haven't seen it in a long, long time. And if they go to another level, I can't see anyone beating them.
Yeah, I'd see them as big favourites from here. Shane, what impressed you the most? Or was part of it down to Drum not reaching the level that they'd expected?
Yeah, I think it was a bit of both. Like I to be honest, there was a lot of chat in the build-up to the weekend, thinking it was the tide around and going to be exciting. I feared this was going to happen. Like I just the last few years, Drum, when they get to maybe to a big game, that don't tend to really lift the intensity levels to go. Like, you have to find a bit more from the group stage. I think the last time, like, you think last year when they barely got over Lockmore, who were severely depleted, and then they never even got close to Kiladangan in the semi-final, while they weren't heavily beaten. Like, they were never really in the game. I think the last time I've seen Drum in a knockout quarter final get to the pitch of the game, and Shane, you won't remind me, is the penalty shootout in 2020.
Yeah.
Like, they went out the semi-final the week after against Kiladangan, and they were well beaten. Like, there's something about them in big knockout games. They're not getting up to the next level. And like, for all the players they have, like, they're just I did say it a couple of weeks ago. I said that round robin defeat at Brackens, even though it was a dead rubber, I think it said a lot about their mentality. Like, you've got to go out and play every game as if it's a knockout or the right attitude. And I think then in knockouts, you have to find something else. You have to rev yourself up. And I don't think Drum rev themselves up to the right level to really. And if you don't rev it up for Sarsfields and you let them hurl, they'll kill you. Like, they're just too much. Like, and too many ball players. Like Stephen Cahill, outstanding on the day. He was really, really good. Billy McCarthy, outstanding again. Like, I know they haven't won the county championship, and this is just a hypothetical situation. Like, but you think of all the great Thurles team, the team that 4 in a row, and they struggle in Munster. I actually think this Thurles team is better set up for a provincial campaign because they're more physical. They're not all ball players who want the nice hurling. This is a Pádraig Maher team. Like, if you want to play with Thurles, you got to work first as well. If you might be a good hurler, but if you don't bring the work rate, you won't play.
Yeah, and you only give Paddy Creedon a few minutes as well, which is, he has himself in a brilliant position here. But like, Shane, even just to stick with you for a second, some of the key players and around the middle 8, even though it's probably more of a middle 12 these days, didn't really do it for Drum. Pádraig Campion had some okay moments. I thought, Mike Fitzpatrick was taken off early enough. John Campion didn't really get to the level we expect. Jamie Maloney made a couple of decent solo runs, didn't fully happen. Johnny Ryan had a very quiet game. So like that middle sector, they really weren't able to compete as they'd have hoped.
No. It's look, I there's no doubt. Look, this Drum team is on the slide as well. But look, Seamus Callanan is not at the peak of his power. Johnny Ryan, David Collins, but they shouldn't be on them anymore. And the Johnny Campions, the Podge Campions, the Frinton Purcells, like, they should be the ones really driving this thing on now, and I suppose they're not doing it quite yet. That's not to say they can't, and look, I still think the window is there for them to come, but like, there's got to be a bit of soul searching, like, why why over the last couple of years when it came to the likes of Kiladangan and Sarsfields and in the big knockout games have they been falling short against the really good teams.
Yeah, Gary, what did you make of the game, like in terms of, like from a drum point of view? Why did they come up so short?
Like if you look back at it or go back a long way, like Brackens. Now I said it last week in a preview for a clubber that it was a very worrying performance, regardless of winning the group or not. That was worrying. If you want to make a statement, you beat Brackens. They lost heavily to Brackens. Now I know we'll go back to football, but same players, they lost a big heavy defeat then to Commercials, and then coming into this, like subconsciously, your confidence has to be somewhat drained going into this game, and knowing that Thurles have had kind of the monkey over the last couple of years. No one played well for Drum, and like this is no disrespect to him whatsoever. You have your bad days, and that's fine. It's only a game of hurling; we get over it. But no one played well for Drum. I thought bringing Shamey out to the half forward line in around the middle third was a bit silly. He should have been inside the full forward line. But then again, you couldn't do that because they left Ronan free. Like Thurles had 9 different scores at half time. 4 of their backs had scored by half time. So like that's a fair statement. And maybe where the forwards probably weren't working hard enough to track back with the Thurles backs as well. So Drummer, they're a fair bit off the top level. Like if you're doing your power rankings, like I wouldn't have them in your top 8. I know they got the county quarter final, but I wouldn't have them in the top 8. I know Shane is saying they're probably on the downward. I would disagree with that in a sense because it is still a young team. I know you got Johnny and Shane there, but still a young team. There's still plenty there to work on. The players are there, but it's a frightening downfall from the Brackens game to this game.
Like you think about this year, they lost heavily to Lockmore in the mid, they lost heavily to Brackens in the county, and they lost heavily. Like they're 3 of the 5 games they played in the championship this year, they lost heavily. Like and then they beat Nina minus Jake Morris, and they beat Bunahone, which was a good victory. Like so, you think their body of work, they're probably going in. They're probably, when we reflect on it, it wasn't like. Would have better teams gone out with a championship before Drum getting to quarter final? They probably have. I would have thought from that point of view.
Yeah, and you know what? If I'm going to call out other people for getting things wrong, I have to hold my hands up and say I got it badly wrong about Thurles from a couple of games ago. I was saying, do they have a couple of big cumbersome players around the pitch, and is it not really the right balance? Now I'm looking at it and thinking, can they give it a right good burst in Munster? So they've certainly proven me massively wrong here. Like,
what I think Thurles probably will go into the favourites book for the county, and as good as they've been the last 2 games, I think everybody will get a fair feel of how good Thurles are, like when they play Lockmore, because Lockmore are going to come. They might be short a few backs, but you know what Lockmore are going to perform, and I think if Thurles come out of that, I think we can really, really take them. Look, they are serious championship contenders, but I did think Bursley and Drum, there was elements of the performance of those opponents that made it slightly easier for Thurles. I don't think Lockmore are going to make it easy for Thurles at all.
But the beating that Kiladangan put on Thurles the first day when Ronan wasn't playing now,
that's still the thing at the back of the head that would concern you.
Or would it be like that was like the turning point? That was the stick that Paddy Maher had to beat the team with, and from then on, and even he's kind of left Paddy Creedon on the bench. It's basically, I think there's no excuses here, lads. Look, let's. I actually just think then
you could also say that game came a week after a mid-final, which they won, and Ronan Maher was missing. Plus, Kiladangan were coming in off losing a North final, so they probably had that bit of sort of an edge. Say, God, we have to pick things up. Sometimes you get a bit of a juice from a defeat, and maybe you're softened up by a win. So that could have had something to play with that as well.
Yeah, and like Dennis Maher now playing full back, he has been brilliant because like you look at their defence, the amount of lads who are able to hurl the ball out of defence. So obviously, you give the ball to Ronan Maher anywhere, even on his own 21, he can probably put it into the full forward line or pick out whoever he wants to pick out. Like Dennis Maher, if a ball goes in 50-50, like he's such an animal, and it seems to be suiting him so much more there, Gary, than centre back, for example, when he had to play in the absence of Ronan against Kiladangan.
Oh, completely effortless. Like he's after slotting in there like there's no tomorrow. There maybe everyone probably talking about the game against Kiladangan. I don't think Ronan will lose any bit of sleep over it. And for some of the factors that you said there, a week after mid-final, Ronan been missing. Look, Ronan is the linchpin in this team. If he was missing against Lockmore, I'd fancy Lockmore. If he's there, I fancy Thurles to win. I wouldn't say comfortably, but I reckon they'll win by 5 or 6 points and an easy 5 or 6 points. But like you're looking at Paul Maher and Stephen Maher, 2 cornerbacks. The size of these lads and the wrists on them. These lads could play midfield, centre forward, corner forward as well. The wrists on them are unbelievable. And the ball they're playing inside to the forwards or through the line and to like Stephen Call and just Stephen Call, like this lad, the wrists on him, they're just so nice to watch when he winds up for a shot and you know from 70, 80 yards it's going over. He was unbelievable. But it's the first Thurles team I've seen. I would say in my time that they have this strength and this pace as well with the hurling, and they haven't combined all three in a long time. And getting ahead of ourselves, and Shane brought it up first. Thank God, I didn't want to do it. But in Munster,
I haven't. I'm not saying they're going to win. I would say hypothetically, if they do,
I do think they're the only ones in Munster that could put it up to Ballygunner. Nothing will come out from Limerick to beat them. No, I don't think. I think Ballygunner again have gone to another level without having games, but I think Thurles, if they can get out a tip, they'll really, really give it to Ballygunner.
Right, okay, that's very interesting. And Kilmallock are they're the one team that was through to the semi-finals early in Limerick as well. So
I suppose just to maybe finish on Thurles, and maybe it might veer into Premier Intermediate, like you say, it's a fair. I think at the moment, like Pádraig Maher, first year of management is in line to maybe win 2 county championships, one with the senior, one with Premier Intermediate. It'll be some year for him if he does it. Like personally, I hope he has to wait for the Premier Intermediate one. If it means that Lough can win it, but we have our own job to do to take care of Clonakilty this weekend before we could even worry about that. But it'd be something else for Pádraig now if he was able to do it in his first year. Yeah,
it's just the manner in which they're playing, like the whole kind of cliche about hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work. They have both of them, and that's a fairly unbeatable combination. And it's because of that I think they're going to come through here. Like against Nina, when they were at it in that game, and they had a series of wides in the second half that dragged Nina back into it. But they were, very comfortably the better team in that, very comfortably the better team against Burrs, very comfortably the better team against Drum. So it's just, they seem to be clicking nicely now. But Shane, we'll move on to your power rankings. It's the 5th one of the year here. Not too much movement there. The only thing I'd really object to is that Thurles aren't at number 1.
But Lockmore have stayed winning. Like that's the only thing I think they've stayed winning, and that's why I've sort of stayed with Lockmore. Like there might have been tight games with like the Holycross and Roscrea, but they're still winning. I'd moved Thurles back up over Kiladangan, even though Kiladangan beat Thurles. I just think Thurles over the last few weeks just have nudged themselves into gear a small bit. So and maybe just the element of their performance last weekend. And look, Drum was the one that I'm not happy with putting them at 5, but I can't put them below Mullinahone and Nina because they beat them. So, but then do you put them below Roscrea and Holycross? Do Nina and Mullinahone deserve to go that low? Maybe they do. Like so, because like Roscrea and Holycross perform well in defeat. So, I probably have a bit more reevaluating to do after the semis because we'll have the relegation semis too. So, I don't think it's my finest piece of work yet. So I'm not happy with it on second view.
You would say that again.
Yeah. Gary, what do you think?
Yeah, no, listen, I think for the Roscrea and Holycross performances alone, they need to be in the top 8. I'd get Drum out there.
I'll probably Roscrea and Holycross probably 6 and 7 and move the rest of them down on second thoughts.
Clonoulty, I don't know how you can have Clonoulty 4 games they played in the county and they've lost all 4 games. So Clonoulty and Drum has to get out of the top 8 there, and Thurles.
I think Clonoulty were in a tough group. Plus, they hurled well against Toome. I'm not going to penalise them for losing. I thought they performed pretty well last weekend.
True, but then are you going on performances or are you going on results? Do you know? So
I think you have to. I suppose power rankings is a bit of both. I think.
Thurles, I think definitely are in my eyes number 1 and comfortably at the moment. But Drum, again, as you said, there are the 5 games they played, 3 big defeats.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have him in the top 8. But Roscrea or Holycross, one of them would have to go ahead of Drummond.
I think that definitely knocked Drummond back down to 7, maybe 8 now after that. So,
Shane, is there any weakness in that Thurles team when you look at it?
Not at the moment. You can't say like they have scores from everywhere. They don't mind. They do. I suppose they were going to concede 112 last weekend. I don't think so. Like, they have a strong bench. They can afford not to start Paddy Creedon. They have Michael Cahill absolutely burning it up for the Premier Intermediate team, and he can't even get on their senior team. I'm sure maybe in the coming weeks, maybe if they do get out of the county and into Munster, that he'll become an integral part of that senior team, because experience will become so important. Like, so look, they've such a deep squad. Like, they have players in the Premier Intermediate team that will be starting on most senior teams at the moment. Like, you think Thurles have 5 adult hurling teams like that. People think like what's going on in Thurles is incredible. Like, 5 in a town of that size. Like, and then throwing Thurles Gales have their own adult team. You have 6 adult hurling teams in the town of Thurles. Like, it just shows you the love, the passion for hurling there is in that town.
Split them in 2? Is that what we're saying?
There is 2 clubs, but there's more 7/8 of one and 1/8 of the other. Like, so.
Sorry, I meant split Sars in 2.
Yeah.
But Gary, so we're struggling to figure out any weaknesses really in that Thurles team now that they've got that hard edge to them. Do you see weaknesses in the other 3 teams that are into the semi-finals? So Kiladangan, Lockmore, and Toome.
Lockmore, I was saying all year that what they're conceding, I wouldn't be worried about, but I am worried now. Like, as good as Roscrea were, look, Roscrea aren't going to win it down Breen, so conceding that much against Roscrea is worrying. They've conceded a hell of a lot in this year's championship, so their defence is very shaky. But I suppose it's that expressive style of hurling they play anyway. They leave themselves open, but I'd imagine against Thurles, they'll probably have maybe 2 lads even sitting, one in front of full back line, one in front of half back line. Kiladangan, again, I think the only weakness in Kiladangan is the uncertainty of which Kiladangan is going to show up. To me, Kiladangan are on par with Sars, just maybe a small bit below them. But if the real Kiladangan show up, they're on par with Sars. But the uncertainty is with Kiladangan, the inconsistency. And then in Toome, look, for me, Toome, it's probably just the lack of experience. Is their weak link going into the last 4 now? Is their lack of experience? Big day inside the stadium, big game now against the Dangan, who have been there, battle hardened. And Sars, no, there's no weakness for me in Sars at the moment. But I really think if Lockmore just put a man on Ronan, let's just see how that goes for 10-15 minutes. Stop that ball going in. Let Stephen and Paul Martin play the ball in and see how that goes from instead of Ronan. So I think just man mark Ronan for 15 minutes, see how it goes. Now, it's easier said than done. I wouldn't want to do it, that's for sure. Just there was one hit, actually, Jesus, the whole stand just erupted. I think it was 2 drum lads went into shoulder Ronan, and the 2 of them just got flattened. Like, this man is a man mountain, like. But no, I think that's the weakness going to all teams, that's it. But Thurles, no. Just stop Ronan.
We need that. We need that semi-final to be good, because it'll be on national television. Like, so we 7:15 on Saturday week. Like, so we need that to, I suppose, keep the likes of Shane's anti-rugby brigade happy, where all the rugby is going on at the moment. Just to take the pressure off.
Hey, are you getting big into this Rugby World Cup at the moment, Shane? You're a big rugby head, aren't you?
I like rugby. I'm not ashamed to say I prefer rugby to soccer now.
Even though most rugby players, so if you have 15 players in the team, you could have at a minimum 10 lads who aren't able to do the core skills of the game. Am I wrong?
I don't overthink it. I just watch it. I like the physicality of it. I don't like the bullshit that goes on with, oh, look at this piece of pass. Like, I think that's all that load of nonsense. But I do like it. I'm looking forward to Saturday night. I think Ireland South Africa is going to be serious. Like, so,
would you
some of the one-sided nature of the games would frustrate you. But look, I like the fact that, look, in some ways it's about the big teams. They want to give the smaller teams a chance to show their wares. And like, I always
don't play them for 4 years. Like, what are you talking about? Like, they don't play the tier 2 and beyond nations.
I know, but that's a problem. Like, that is a problem.
And like, what would you prefer to see Liverpool win the Premier League or Ireland win a Six Nations?
Shane, come on.
Ireland.
Yeah, good answer.
I'd rather
Hold on.
Blackburn Rovers win a friendly than...
We've won loads of Six Nations recently, so I'd probably prefer Liverpool because we never got to celebrate the 2020 league properly because of COVID.
What do you think, Gary?
Now, if you were to say to me, do we want Liverpool to win a Premier League or Ireland to win a World Cup? No, I'd say Ireland to win a World Cup.
That's why I picked Six Nations. I knew you would.
Yeah. I'm a United man, so I'll stick to talking about rugby for the moment.
He's worried about Harry Kane not scoring 6 goals tonight.
He'll score 2 or 3. Just mark it down, chalk it down. The rugby, I love rugby. I'd watch anything going flies up a wall. I absolutely love the World Cup. But the thing that annoys me the most is the terminology that they use. They make it so technical, and it's creeping into GA as well. I think there was a clip up on Twitter at the weekend about a coach talking about second phase ball and this and that. Like, that's called breaking ball. Just call it breaking ball. But then again, the commercial side of rugby, it's so bloody annoying. Like in Namibia and all these countries in it, should be 4 groups of 4, top through the quarterfinal, and they should have a second-tier World Cup for the smaller nations. Like some of these games this week, it looks like an Eddie Hearn pay-per-view event with all 1-100 shots going on this week. So this week, apart from Ireland and South Africa, it's a damn squib this week. But it's been a decent World Cup so far. But yeah, just terminology and some of the experts trying to be smarter than they were. But it was great that Jamie Heaslip got a bit of a roasting from Zebo there last week.
And speaking of him, you know the way we talk about, game taking on a life of its own or the flow of a game or whatever, Jamie Heaslip was talking about the cadence of a game. And that hurt now. That still hurts having to hear, and my ears.
Well, the way I always do it, I was thinking about, it's their game. Like, it's their terminology. If you're a GA person trying to, you're going to get frustrated. Like, the way I think it's their game. Let them use their own terminology. Just enjoy it for what it is. Like, I'm sure there's aspects of GA that pure rugby people probably find annoying too. Like, so look, we're not all perfect, even though hurling is nearly perfect.
I was playing a bit of five-a-side with a couple of proper dub soccer heads recently, and somebody I had felt fouled me. Yeah, a small bit of simulation, whatever. And I said, it's for free, a few expletives or whatever. And one of them goes, "Oh, was it a 65 or something like that?" They love coming down on us too. But anyway, we'll move on to the Premier Intermediate over the weekend. So the Lara Clonakilty game was postponed, so that probably allowed you to relax with the child over the weekend, Shade. But I suppose first of all, deepest sympathies to Matthew's family. I know Gary, you know Tomas well, and I know Tomas well, and make sure the Matthews are steeped in Clonakilty, so deepest sympathies to them. So look, in one way I was disappointed because I suppose I thought our lads are ready to go, so you're always wondering, like, we'll be able to get to the same pitch or cadence maybe a week later. But look, we'll go at it again next Saturday. But I was able to sit back and watch the other. Well, I didn't get to see Burgess and Sarsfields, but I saw the other 2 games on Sunday. Clonoulty, very convincing winners over the Swan. I thought the Swan were very disappointed. I thought South Derby did absolutely rip into Clonoulty, but apart from Gavin O'Halloran, they brought very, very little to it. So, and then I thought Clonoulty were comfortable winners without having to hit top gear. I thought Cashel were very, very impressive now. I thought they were comfortably, although they only won by 4, I thought they were never under any threat of losing to Cashel. And look, I think Gortnahu's probably issue was, like, the lost Ronan Tehan from last year's team. He's an Australia huge loss. Then they lost their full back, who was injured against St. Mary's, which meant they robbed Carol Campion, had to go back full back. And then they were heavily reliant on Cian Hayes again for scores. And when you're up against a Cashel team that you have Owen and Ronan Connolly can score from deep. You have Devin Ryan, Ger Brown, Ross Bonner, Con Bonner, Paddy Fahy. Like, they have a spread of scorers, and they're coming to the boil at the right time. And then you have Thurles Sarsfields now, who are they're the dangerous underdog now. Like, they went in, and like, I thought Burgess would maybe just overpower them a small bit, but no, they were full value for the win. And even when they went a point behind 5 minutes to go, I said, okay, Burgess is going to win here by 3 or 4. Thurles came back and got the win. They got to go ahead, and they held on for a finish. So and then you have the other quarter final next week. So you have 5. I think every of the 5 teams left, I think every one of them can realistically think that they could be lifting the Oreen Cup in next month. Yeah, is there any word of Bubbles O'Dwyer coming back for Clonoulty? I'm just looking at the lads who did the score, and 5 of the 6 forwards scored. Kieran O'Dwyer got himself 13 place balls. Mark Stapleton was very good. But is there any word on Bubbles?
You'd have to have your doubts that he's going to see any action this year. Like, he was along the sideline carrying water, but he wasn't tugged out. So you'd have to think, even at this stage, like, you think, yeah, for a game like that, you at least have him tugged out. If traditionally we would associate with Clonoulty Swan, that if we go down to the last 5 or 10 minutes and you need an X-factor guy off the bench, but that he wasn't tugged maybe leads you to think that whatever, I believe it's a foot problem, that it's not, or maybe they're playing a gamble, they've taken a calculated gamble that will give him a chance of getting to a semi-final, final. I mean, that's when he'll be ready, like, so, and look, that they've got there, so, but it's, I suppose on the outside, you'd have to be worried for him that if he hasn't seen any action at this stage and wasn't tugged last weekend, that he's still a bit way off.
Yeah, very disappointing for Burgess to be beaten by Thurles Sarsfields' second team, Gary. I'd say that one now, that'll be quite a painful one to heading into a long winter.
It'll be a sore one. I fully expected Burgess to win. Like, after the North final against Lough, they've recovered really well, won the group really well, hurling well. Again, strength and conditions improved tenfold this year. They have a really good attitude, but that all just seemed to went out the window on Saturday at the weekend. They kind of lost the run themselves for a while. They got back in the game, but then I think it's more of a compliment to Thurles. I didn't think Thurles had that inside them. I did Thurles against Tracy's in round 3, and they just got over the line. They won by 3 in the end. The late goal kind of put flatter on the scoreline for Tracy's, but I said that day, just Thurles will get to quarter final and that'll be it. But then you see what Tracy did Portrush. It was a comfortable 6 points, and I mean comfortable 6 points. So I wouldn't have Thurles. Look, they're there in the mix now, but Shane said all 5 can win it. I would say 3. But again, I still wouldn't write them off. I thought they'd beat Burgess, but Burgess has to look back at this year. They probably threw away in our final where they were leading at half time and just let Lough back into the game and took full control. They got back into this game and they let Thurles go on and win again. So it's been such an indifferent year for Burgess. Like, I don't know where they're at now at this stage. I was very impressed with them up until this game, but it's just, they're probably at loggerheads now with themselves, and where do they go from here? It's really disappointing from a Burgess point of view.
Yeah,
like, from the few accounts I heard is that I thought against ourselves in the North final, they went overly direct in the second half, and it was easy for our defenders to come out with the ball. And I believe that Michael Cahill was outstanding on Saturday, and that it was the same thing again, overly direct, and like Michael is just able to sit back at centre back and he's just too good to be able to read that play. So I think maybe that's an element of maybe Burgess' game for next year will be just to vary their play. Like, it's easy when you have a Bill Flaherty in full forward and he's a unit. Like, but like they have Stephen Kerwin, they have Stephen Murray, they have Young Grace. Like, they have forwards who can score. So it'll be a disappointing one for Burgess. Like, considering they got to a semi-final last year, they would have been hoping to go on and win it, but that's not happened for them this year.
Yeah, and then like those relegation semi-finals, as we've already mentioned, Sean Tracy's 122, Portrush 19, and Moyne Templetui 23 points, Newport 114. So very disappointing for both Portrush and Newport, Shane.
Yeah, I suppose the North is guaranteed to lose a team. Like, okay, there's a chance maybe Moneygall could come up, but I suppose they're definitely going to have one team relegated for Premier Intermediate. And yeah, it's like I knew Newport were down a couple of bodies from last year, but geez, like, they've really disappointed me. Like, it looks to me that, in fairness, I know Moyne Templetui came in for a lot of criticism after losing the St. Mary's with 14 men and then losing to Cashel who had 12. And obviously they went back to basics against Newport and they got through. So, it's going to be a sore one for Portrush or Newport, whoever goes down. Particularly for Port, they've been comfortably senior or Premier Intermediate, I'd say, for up to 30 years, I'd say. And I Newport only came up in the last 6 or 7. So, have to call it now, I would say Portrush would be favourites. Like, so, but that's going to be a tasty one, and I presume Saturday or Sunday week whenever it's played.
Okay, I'll just run through the results in the intermediate quarterfinals, and then maybe Gary will start off with you. You can give us your take. Moneygall continued their good form, 315 to 210 victors over Borriscane. Kilsheal and Kilcash 123, Kappa White 312, so they were from the same group as Moneygall. They're through. Golden Kilfeacle 318, Drummond Inch's second team 111, and Borlahan Douala 20 points, Knockavilla Kickham's 15. Am I right in saying, Gary, that's 3 teams out of the one group that are into the semi-final now?
That's it. It was a group of death. Like, this was the best group. Like, I know we'd seen Premier Intermediate, but like, we've 3. These are the 3 teams that are going to win it. No disrespect to Golden. They did a good win over Drum at the weekend. Probably a bit of a shock, but it was Drum's second team. I did the Moneygall and Borlahan game. Moneygall, again, probably flattered to receive. Didn't really get out third or fourth gear. Burskane just brutally disappointing again. Now, I will say, Philly Austin went off after 20 minutes. Philly was running that game. And I mean, single-handedly running that game for Burskane. And Gary Ryan was hurling really well up until Philly was going off. Philly went off. Oisin Larkin came on. He wasn't started for whatever reasons. And then within Philly going off, Moneygall got a goal and a point. And then Moneygall went from 2 points down to 3 points up or something in the space of 5 minutes. And they run out comfy winners in the end. Paddy Fogarty was very good. He got man to match. And yeah, Moneygall for me, they're number 1. Borlahan and Kickham's there on Sunday. Did that in Cashel. Again, Borlahan didn't have to really get out of second, third gear. Kickham's threw everything at Borlahan. But the old dog, Dara Hickey, he got 4 or 5 points in play. He was unbelievable inside, kind of full forward. Kind of ran the show for Borlahan. Tomas Ryan was very good centre forward as well. But yeah, it's the 3 big teams. Kilsheelan had a big win over Kappa White as well. Now, Kilsheelan for me was the kind of the worrying thing for Kilsheelan. This is their 4th game in 13 days. So 2 senior football and 2 hurling. I thought the legs would go from them. This is a young Kappa White team, a really nice Kappa White team. But they blew him away. Absolutely blew him away. Mark Hyo again, as usual. But Barry Hyo was very good. Very good. So, like, you have the 3 big dogs now in the semi-final. It's an unbelievable championship with 3 teams down to the last 4. So, look, Moneygall, Borlahan, the 2 teams drew in Tipperary a few weeks ago. I'd fancy Moneygall come through there, and Kilsheelan, look, they will have too much for goal. They will be golden, but Moneygall, Kilsheelan final is what I'm predicting. And probably with the North head on me in a few relations here, Moneygall, I would pick Moneygall. But when you have Joe Fogarty, like, and I mean, like, you've inter-county hurlers with Joe and Sean, when you have a big unit like Sean at that level, not just the hands or the wrists, like, that's some power to have. But Paddy Fogarty inside, Sean Keneally, Mark Fanning was very good, Adam Hogan, Brendan Toohey, you have all these really experienced lads. So, look, it's a great championship. It's been unbelievable. It's
coming into the boil nicely, and, like, you have to think, like, the draw has worked in Kilsheelan's favour. Like, you think, like, they have probably the more winnable semi-final. No disrespect to Golden. Like, you think Golden from a couple of weeks ago were 1 puck of a ball from going into relegation. Now they're in a semi-final, and look, maybe things have just clicked in Golden, like, and they're just momentum now. And I wouldn't write them off against Kilsheelan whatsoever. I think they're a dangerous team now. But look, I think the thing for Kilsheelan now is they're riding the crest of a wave. Like, they're playing a lot of games, but they're winning and performing. Like, they have Upper Church in the senior football quarterfinal. Like, they shouldn't be worried about what code they're playing now. Just go out and play whatever game is. They don't seem to be suffering too many injuries, so just take every game as it comes. Don't be worrying about maybe we remind ourselves for gold. And look, the worst thing you can do is maybe put a roadblock in front of you. Just ride the quest of a wave at the moment and see where it takes you.
Yeah, in the relegation semi-finals in the intermediate, Arravale Rovers had a 20 points to 19 victory over Upper Church's second team. And Shannon Rovers were taken to extra time by Kiladangan, so 30 points to 4-15 there. I'd say George Hannigan will be able to arrive at training with a little bit of a smile with Kiladangan next week.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
2 broken legs.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I have fair play to the Rovers. Like, and look, if they were in any other group, they could have been in the quarterfinals last weekend. Like, they were in that group of Moneygall, Boherlahan, and Kilsheelan, and they performed pretty well in all those games. They just didn't have enough. And like, I thought maybe Kiladangan would have maybe a small bit too much for them last weekend. But look, 30 scores to 18, like, that shows you the difference. A couple of late goals, maybe that Kiladangan were chasing, probably made it look tighter than it was. So look, they're safe for another year. And look, be a bit of concern now in Kiladangan. Like, they were relegated for Premier Intermediate last year. Now they're 1 game away from being relegated back to junior. Like, and we were showing a couple of years ago when Kiladangan's second team was going through the rise. Like, that's all. I think how your second team is going is a good indicator of how a club is. So it probably shows that maybe Kiladangan at senior level, it's not when they were a few years ago and at senior, they were strong, and then they had a strong Premier Intermediate team. It's that your second team potentially could be dropping back to Junior A is not a good sign for them at the moment, and maybe something they've got to reflect on.
Yeah, there's a breaking news this morning, Gary, about Eamon O'Shea potentially joining the backroom team of Galway for 2024. We know that Eamon's son Donal is actually involved in the panel and has been there for the last couple of years, so maybe that's a little bit of a carrot, assuming that the story is true. But seeing one of the big names of Tipperary and one of the big names of Kilkenny together trying to lift up another one of our Tipperary rivals, what do you make of this story?
Oh, that's depressing to hear. Yeah, look, listen, we all know it. Look, I know the genius that is Eamon. I know you concentrate in your own camp and everything now. Look, obviously, Liam Cahill won't worry about this, so us supporters, we will. I would be a small bit worried about that, yeah, because Galway, they're not too far off it. They probably just need an extra couple of %, and like Eamon will get that out of him. Whether it's good enough to beat Limerick is another thing, but I think from, I suppose, a typical Kilkenny point of view, for that chasing Limerick, I would put Galway straight into second now. If those reports are true and Eamon is going in, like he can work his magic in a short space of time, and Henry is no fool. So Henry and Eamon O'Shea working together, yeah, it'd be a small bit concerned from a Kilkenny and Tip point of view, yeah.
Yeah, but then again, he didn't exactly work his magic in the last couple of years involved with Tipperary. So I don't know if I entirely agree with that, Shane. Like last year, Galway beat us by 2 points, but they hammered us by 2 points. Let's call a spade a spade. Tip were very much off the boil. And after a good opening 25 minutes against Limerick in the semi-final, they lost the remainder of the game by 15 points. So I would say that they're a fair bit off, contrived to not win Leinster again. So I don't know if I'd be all that concerned.
I would be a small look.
But like, I don't know. Do Galway have the players? Like, I mean, so
I think they do. I think the game has changed. Maybe from, like you said, the first stint of Eamon O'Shea, where the ball was all inclusive. I think the best way, even though it's gone very physical and athletic, and I still think the best way in some, like, to beat Limerick is to out hurl them in some ways, like just you being smart on how you use the ball. And look, it's going to be, if it is true, it's a great coup for Henry. And look, like you might think, for why is Eamon going in with Galway? Look, Eamon has his time done with Tip. It's very unlikely he's going to be coming back. He's given 9 years to Tipperary, 6 as coach, 3 as manager. What more can he do? Selfishly, I'd love when Eamon maybe retires from University of Galway, that he's immediately given a director hurling role in Tipperary, or just like, he can't do it now. He's full time in his job, but maybe when he retires and he's able to give, like, a man that could just put the structures in place and oversee the whole, be our Paddy Butler. But his mind is just incredible. Like I was just talking to him a few weeks ago, and for the Seamus Callanan piece, and we were just chatting. He'd just been in from training the Salt Hill Knocknacarra junior hurlers, and he was telling me like how difficult it is, even in that Galway city. Like, you think Galway is a hurling county, and that even in the city there should be pockets of mad hurling people. He says no, like, you have that part of the city is sort of a strong Mayo or Roscommon influence, and like very few of the people that be living in that area would have been brought up on hurling and when they were young up in Mayo and Roscommon. So when they come down to Salt Hill to live in Knocknacarra, they don't know what to do with hurling. Whereas Eamon comes from Killarwan, he's mad into hurling. Like, it's hard to break in there, even at junior level. Like, it's all senior football in that part of the city. Like, so, and like, I suppose he's looking to think, he's probably mad maybe to get back into county hurling, and I suppose options are limited. And if he wants to go back into an elite level, that Galway suits him down to the ground. And I'm sure if he does go in, I'm sure, and I think he'd be one of those guys who won't allow the presence of Donal distract. He won't be one of those who'd be looking at he'd be treating his son differently to the rest. He'll think if Donald's not up to it, he's not playing, like, and he won't treat him any different than the rest. So I do think it's the fact that he's bringing in Eamon O'Shea and Johnny O'Connor shows me that Henry, he's evaluating things after 2 years. Okay, what we need to change things up here. It mightn't make a difference, but he's realised we have to change something to try and no doubt they haven't kicked on in the last 2 years than I would have thought. Like the last 2 Leinster finals, they should have won. Probably last 2 All-Ireland semi-finals. I don't think they deserve to win either of them. Like they were close in 2022, well beaten this year, but there's no doubt Henry had to find something more. And look, he's definitely trying it anyway.
Yeah, but I suppose one of the main reasons that I'd be kind of doubtful about it making a massive difference, and this is no reflection on Eamon O'Shea or Henry Shefflin, by the way. Like, you look at the team and the age profile, Davy Burke's only going to be coming back from a cruciate. Going to be very hard for him at maybe 32, 33 to make a huge impact. Players that are around 30 or even gone past 30, Grode McInerney, Dahi Burke's hitting 30 now. He's, has so many miles on the clock, still brilliant. Joseph Cooney is going to be something like 32.
Manion's a long time on the road now.
Yeah,
not always a lot of mileage.
Connor Cooney's on the road a long time as well. So, like, these are all names that were, very, very prominent when they did win the All-Ireland and they were getting to finals. So I don't know, Gary. I don't know if it's a case of like Galway are starting to slide a little bit. Can they stem the tide? Can they get back? I just wouldn't be entirely convinced.
It's not a bad thing. It's not going to make them worse. That's for sure.
No.
And even if it does get an extra 5% out of them, that extra 5% could be good enough to beat Tipperary Kilkenny on their day. It obviously won't be good enough to beat Limerick. So whether Eamon's only coming in for a year or not, they're not going to win All Ireland next year. That's for sure. So for me at the moment, even from a tip point of view, we're in the chasing pack, and I don't think we're set up to win All Ireland in the next year or two either. It's all about the work that's being done now over the next year or two. So if Eamon's going in with Henry for the next 2 or 3 years, then you'll see the difference in that. But look, I know you said it won't be worried. I'm not worried. I'm not going to lose sleep over it, but I just think over a winter, and if Tipper playing Kilkenny or Galway in our quarter-final or semi-final, if we lose by a point or two, that point or two could be that extra 5% from Eamon. Do you know, it's small things like that, again, because I think we have to be realistic as well. We're chasing Limerick and we're a fair bit behind Limerick. We might catch him in Munster. I don't think we're at the level to catch him in All-Ireland yet. So I'm just thinking from the chasing pack point of view. But look, I'd like to wish him best of luck. He's a hero in my eyes, but I wish him no luck whatsoever.
We'll just talk about the football there. The quarterfinals are on this weekend. I'll just read out the fixtures, Shane, and you can start us off then. Lockmore against Boyle Rovers. Clonmel Commercials will meet Ballina on Sunday. Then Upper Church against Kilsheal and Kilcash, and JK Brackens against Killenaul. Just the semi-finals in the relegation. Then we'll see Aero Gannacarty will meet Arvale Rovers, and Moycarkey Burrs against Rockwell Rovers. So Shane, you might start us off there with the football. Yeah,
I think there are 4 tasty quarterfinals. I think Lockmore, Moyle Rovers. I would assume the fact that I can't see Noel McGrath playing next weekend. Like they'll mind him for the hurling. Like that opens the door for Moyle Rovers. I know Moyle Rovers have been very poor, but like they got the win against Ballybreen to stay up, and now maybe Lockmore, maybe half an eye in the hurling, maybe it opens the door. So I still think Lockmore would have enough, but I think it's a tighter one. Fascinated by Clonmel and Ballina. Clonmel look very strong, but if Ballina are able to put out their best 15, if Stephen O'Brien, Tom Lee and Charlie King come back into the team, I'm just fascinated to see how Ballina go against them. I think they could really rattle them. I think Commercials will have too much, but I think I'm really looking forward to that one. Sunday's games, Brackens, Killenaul. I think Brackens, good footballing team. I think they'll get through there. Killenaul may have one eye on a hurling semi the following week, and Upper Church, Kilsheelan. I think Kilsheelan riding the Quester wave in both codes makes them. I think they can win it, but Upper Church bit more settled. Maybe finalists last year. I think Upper Church maybe would sneak that one, but I think they're 4 tasty quarterfinals.
Yeah, your thoughts on it, Gary?
Yeah, look, I suppose all 4 of them, they're actually all in Clubber as well, so looking forward to those now at the weekend. Just on a Ballina point of view, Shane, I completely agree with you, and they've been the most exciting team for me in the Senior Football Championship this year outside of Clonmel, but I'm nearly certain, a birdie told me a couple of weeks ago that David Kelly's gone travelling. Yeah. I'm 99% sure, so if he's gone, like, he has been just unbelievable. And this is a lad who's been asked numerous times to go into Tip senior team, but he's really... Yeah. Like, he's the focal point behind them. They should have bet Lockmore the last time, minus obviously Tom Lee, Charlie King, and Stephen O'Brien. Still interested to see. They'll put it up to Clonmel, but lads, Clonmel are just in a world of their own at the moment. I've seen them twice this year, and the football they're playing, it's very good. It's a different level to everyone else. They should have enough of a now. Lockmore, Mile, I just can't ever back against Lockmore. They've been very poor this year's football championship, if we're being honest, very poor. Mile just about got out of group after a disappointing defeat. I think it was to Rockwell, wasn't it? Lockmore should have enough, even minus Noel. Brackens and Clonoulty, for me, that possibly could be the game of the weekend in terms of excitement wise. Brackens, the last day in Holycross was unbelievable. The style of football they played are so attacking, so quick on the break. Clonoulty were very good as well. I did that game. Brackens should be Clonoulty, just about. And then I would fancy Upper Church in as well. I'd fancy Upper Church to take Kilsheelan. Just, I think, on the pure, in the nicest possible way, pure ignorance side of things, Upper Church, they were in last year's county final. They'll be feeling hurt from the hurling on both codes. They've had a bit of a break. Kilsheelan, maybe on that wave, yeah, but I think Kilsheelan are flattered receiving this football championship. They should have bet Clonmel the first day. They were brutally disappointing against Drum the second day. And they only bet, I think, Anacarty by 5 or 6 points the third day. So I'd fancy Upper Church, maybe cause a bit of a shock there.
Okay, and then in the intermediate, just to call out the fixtures there, Galtee Rovers will meet Mullinahone, Thurles Sarsfields against Feathered, Clonmel Commercials against Arlo Gales, and Grange Mockler Ballyneal against Moyne Templetuohy. I'm not sure if you want to add anything there, Shane.
Not particularly. I suppose a fascinating one for me would be Thurles against Feathered. You have hurling and Aristocrats against football Aristocrats, and Thurles are coming, but interesting to see will there be any impact of the fact that Thurles' first 2 hurling teams are in a semi-final, maybe whether some of those players will be held back or anything. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of a team they put out.
Okay, and then just to round up, we'll finish up on the Camogie. So Group 1, Drummond Inch 417, Silvermines 2-6. Thurles Sarsfields put up 520 against Nina's 2 points there. So that was fairly comprehensive to say the least. And in Group 2, Clonoulty Rossmore 211, Cashel King Cormac's 12. So Clonoulty keep their good form going there. Just Clonoulty are looking fairly ominous.
They're going well as 4 wins from 4. I think the great thing about the Camogie Championship the last few years is that for years it was just Drum and Duhara, but now and Clonoulty have come in recent years, but now it's wide open. You think apart from Cashel didn't even get out of their group. Cashel were in a semi-final this year. Cashel in a relegations final against Nina. They should be safe. Nina are struggling and probably could do with a stint down in intermediate. But you have 9 pretty good teams there. You have 4 quarterfinals coming up this weekend now. Drum and Clonoulty still look the pick of the pack. But you have Drum are playing Silvermines at the week. No, Drum are playing Kickhams. So Drum and Kickhams have improved another in a cup one this year. So I think Drum should win. Thurles against Anacarty. That'll be tight enough. You think Thurles have really improved, but Anacarty have probably been up senior slightly longer, so they won't fear that one. They have Clonoulty against Silvermines. You probably think Clonoulty will be too strong there. I think the tie it around is Monday night Camogie, Bursley at home to Duhara. That all North affair would be tasty enough. So you have, I think Drum and Clonoulty should win their quarterfinals, but I think the other 2 could be very, very tight indeed.
And just a final topic then. Tipperary got 6 nominations for the 2023 All-Ireland Camogie Championship. Aoife McGrath, Caught Devan, Julianne Burke, Karen Kennedy, Roisin Howard, and Teresa Ryan. So I can't help but notice that 2 of them are from Borris-Lee, which is great. So that's great, I suppose, recognition of the season that Tip have had, Shane.
Absolutely. You'd like to think got to a semi-final that they'll get at least one. You would assume Cork and Watford are going to dominate. I think Karen Kennedy's a shoe-in. I'd be shocked if she doesn't get one. Outside of that, Caught Devan probably. Depends on what the I suppose the candidates are like in the full forward line. But she had a quite poor enough semi-final, but up to that she was really dominant. So I'd say Tip will probably get at least 2. I would think.
Okay. Any final thoughts before we finish up, Gary, on anything?
I suppose just clubber point of view, it was announced Kilkenny this weekend, or Kilkenny Championship there the other day, so we get to keep an eagle-eyed view now on the Kilkenny Championship. So
I'd love to be part of those deliberations of how you got Kilkenny on side. It was like there were, I don't think they even stream matches even the last few years. Like they're very, like they were very set in their ways of we want you to come to the match. We don't want you sitting at home. We want you in the grounds, like so.
They're like North Korea there, but whatever Jimmy and Lara said to the lads. But but like that's one thing. That's a good point as well. I suppose a lot of counties are probably reluctant to do this, but like I'm going to a hell of a lot of games now, and I've seen the attendances are definitely up. So it's not like even last night in Holy or in Littleton for the under-19 game, the place was the outside field was packed, absolutely packed. And the viewing figures were good as well. So it can work hand in hand if county boards work together. So, no, it's just really looking forward to watching the Kilkenny Championship now, because anything you see before is Monday night on GA Go. So that's another exciting package for Clubber.
Yeah, and like the thing with that, what you're saying there, how the exposure can help the attendances. Look at the Premier League. You can watch nearly any game you like, and yet stadiums are rammed full every weekend because it kind of generates the excitement, gets people talking. And people are like, well, I want to get a taste of this up close and personal as well. So, yeah, the more we see of it, the more...
I know there was a small bit of frustration maybe that the small crowds in Thurles last weekend. But look, I think the fact that I think most clubs are playing something at the moment, like we Camogie are on different grade of hurling or football. And that, bar the diehard neutral, the only people who go to Thurles last Sunday would have been the supporters of the clubs themselves. Like so, I think that'll probably change. If you get to semi-finals, like competitions thin out, clubs start to get knocked out, which means maybe their followers will maybe start going to maybe more games as neutrals. So, I always think maybe the quarter-final game should be kept out of Thurles. I can see why they go in there, but I'm more of I think they'd be better off maybe spread around the county. And just before we go, just get your touch in. Mickey Hart going to Derry.
Oh Jesus,
that would be like Liam Sheedy going to manage Kilkenny,
or Eamon O'Shea going in with Galway.
I'm joking. Like Derry and Tyrone are tipping Kilkenny in my eyes.
Yeah. Well, do you know this time last year, or maybe a little bit later in the year, when we saw Liam Cahill coming back from Waterford, like if that went the other way around, we'd be like, there'd be fire in our eyes seeing that. I don't know. Like, I mean, you even see Joe Brolly tweeting that this is worse than the plantation, or worst thing to happen is the plantation. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like we've definitely seen it before, where teams take over a county where. Or actually, Joe, I think of Alex McLeish, who used to be over Aston Villa and then he took over Birmingham. And you're like, straight away, it's not going to work. Or Steve Bruce, who I know he's a Geordie, but he'd been over Sunderland and then he takes over Newcastle. Or Rafa Benitez, he's obviously a Liverpool legend and he takes over Everton. And you're almost like, straight away, people are frustrated. And do you know another thing that I've seen a lot of? Like, people are within Derry, they look at why Rory Gallagher had to leave, and it was because of the allegations of the abuse that his former wife had put out there. And then I see an awful lot of people tweeting about the fact that Mickey Hart had written a character reference for somebody who basically got, they were in court for a sex allegation as well. So there's a lot of reasons why straight off the bat, people kind of almost there's bad feeling before you start. So if things start to go awry in any way, and this before you even talk about the style of football that Mickey Hart goes with, people are almost straight off the bat willing this to fail, Gary.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I wouldn't say it's an anti-Derry thing, but I think it kind of is, and it does come around the style of football and maybe this Derry reputation. But look, I'm not going to get into, I suppose, anything about Rory Gallagher or Mickey Joe. But what I will say is, I think the best part of this, and whoever the Lough PRO is, they need to have a pint bought from at the weekend.
He's actually one of my friends that I went to college with.
You're joking, because it was the best piece of, I won't say it's ex-housery I've ever seen by a county board. It was brilliant, because I'd imagine they weren't expecting that, because I don't think a county board would let the PRO tweet that and announce it for another county. So for me, that was absolute dynamite. So whoever he is, shake his hand from it.
Yeah, because I even heard Peter Fitzpatrick talking on LMFM, he's the county chairman, saying that Mickey Hart said that he's going to go to Derry for 3 years and he wants one last tilted win in All-Ireland. So he's not just going there for the good of his health. It's almost like, to be fair, he was kind of. I'm not saying that he hadn't
Yeah.
had plenty of opportunity with Derry, but he probably was burned by being pushed out the door. Feels now there's an opportunity to win one more All Ireland, so I'm sure he'd be absolutely delighted with that.
And I suppose it's hard for Lough, but like, in fairness, he got them up to Division 2 within one place to get into Division 1, got them into the All Ireland series, competed pretty well, got blown out by Kerry in their last game, and I think they did all that without their best forward, Kieran Byrne. And you're thinking, God, if Byrne was back next year, could they find another level? But then, look, when Derry come calling an All-Ireland contender, even though they're the bitter rivals of your native county, that must have been some conversation to have with Gavin Devlin. To think, geez, like, if we go to Derry and win an All-Ireland at Tyrone's expense, what will we be treated like? So you got to say that Paul's to do it.
And Gavin Devlin is training. Is it his home club? Yeah, he's training. No, I think he's training his home club in Tyrone, Ardbow. And I was seeing reports that Chrissy McCaig, who is of course one of the key men for Derry, is coaching there as well. Yeah. So you can see how the links would happen anyway. But look, let's hope that Derry face Tyrone next year. We all want that.
Did Tyrone get relegated in the league, did they?
Let me just check.
Derry got promoted anyway.
Let me just check and make sure.
Remember.
Okay.
You can be bloody sure the Ulster Championship, Derry Tyrone, is going to be the two hot balls in the first round, like so.
So Derry got promoted,
yeah,
and Tyrone have stayed up, so they will face each other in the league.
At least once, like so.
We can't wait for that one, lads. Been a brilliant show as always, and we'll be chatting in again next week. Enjoy all the games on the weekend, lads. Chat to you soon.
Lads, take care.